अंग्रेज अपना लगान और न्यूज लॉन्ड्री अपना हफ्ता कभी नहीं छोड़ते. Welcome to another episode of Hafta. We're recording this on the 7th of March, Friday at 10:30 in the morning. And before we get into the headlines, I would just like to remind everybody we have a new News Minute News Laundry project. It is called the Impunity of India's Police. A prisoner is killed in an encounter, quote unquote. Another is tortured in custody. There is video evidence of people being beaten up. There was a case in Tamil Nadu of someone's teeth being extracted. When this defines policing in India, is it any wonder that there is so little faith in the police? So we will be doing a series of reports and investigations. We'll travel to Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Maharashtra, Uttar Pradesh, and any other city that this investigation may take us to demonstrate how across states, no matter which government is in power, police impunity is an ongoing malaise, what is the pronunciation?
Malaise.
In India. So News Laundry and the News Minute will investigate these excesses. Our team, Basant Kumar, Maria, Teresa Raju, Pratik Goyal, Anisha Seth, Janvi, Haritha Manav, Kore Ibrahim, Nidarshana Raju, and Jisha Surya will fan across the country to meticulously document and investigate these. So do contribute because we don't take any ads. We don't have to tweet in support of either Vantara or Kantara or any Tara. We don't have to take ads about Kumbh or any. This morning I saw one of the longest ads I've seen in my life on some Assam convention of where Mr. Everyone from Anil Agarwal to Mukesh Ambani to Gautam Adani is promising 50,000, 60,000, 80,000 crore.
Where I think
investment in
Mukesh
Assam.
Ambani said that AI would be Assam intelligence.
Yes,
Not
he said
so much
Assam
about
intelligence, and Modi said A will be for Assam, not for Apple. Of course, we'll have to see, but the point is that ad, after that ad, another ad came of UP government. So basically, that is how news media is being funded. You should know. There's this QR code. While I'm saying all this, you can contribute to our journalism, which is not funded by ads of anyone. And on the front page today is Tamil Nadu government. So basically, governments are funding your news. Congratulations. I'm sure you're very happy. So support this Sena project and pay to keep news free, because when the public pays, the public is served. With that announcement out of the way, we will have two interesting guests to discuss two issues that have not necessarily been the headlines. One of them has, but one is something that, we should speak about, which is the waning relevance of Mayawati and its causes, and she was in the news this week again. So we'll have Dr. Sumeet Mhaskar joining us, who's a professor of sociology at the Jindal School of Government and Public Policy, and we'll also have Ajoy Bose, a veteran journalist and also the author of Behenji, joining us. After a long time, he had come on the Hafta ages ago. But before we get into all that, let's get the headlines from Manisha Pande.
Yes, BSP chief Mayawati removed her nephew Akash Anand from the post of national coordinator and suspended him from the party. Mayawati said that she would not announce her successor till her last breath and would continue to handle party affairs.
So she's pretty confident she will know when her last breath is coming, it appears. Matlab, she's one of those, kya pata kab, kahan, kaise.
No, last breath will come only for everyone. She will be chief.
But
till
she'll
then.
be aware and fully in her senses, and agency will be on in her last breath.
Yes.
And it can't happen, when she's, let's say, river rafting and suddenly a boulder falls.
in a way, she has passed the entire blame on his nephew for the failing of BSP for the past, I think, say 5-6 years.
But we'll discuss all this in detail today.
Madras High Court directed the INB ministry to lift the ban on the website of the Tamil weekly Anand Vardhan, which was blocked after it published a political cartoon. However, the court has said that the magazine should temporarily remove the cartoon.
I mean, although they've said temporarily, but I think it's still a worrying sign if a cartoon is asked to be removed while a case is being heard.
The Delhi police alleged a conspiracy to frame BJP Minister Kapil Mishra. I like how he's BJP Minister Kapil Mishra, from leader to minister. This is in the 2020 Delhi riots case, and they've said that in a written submission opposing a PIL that demanded an FIR against him.
I think it's
So
really
there was a
touching
conspiracy.
that the Delhi government, the Delhi police is so concerned about people being framed.
In
If only the tax
conspiracy on Delhi
authorities were
riots.
that kind to us. Anyway.
No, I just wonder, this JNU guy who is inside the jail for over 3 years now.
Almost 4 now.
The conspiracy part against him is that he was part of a WhatsApp group where he was not even WhatsApping. He did
Hmm.
not send any messages,
Hmm.
but merely because he was part of it.
Hmm.
So he is in the jail for 3 years. And see our Kapil Mishra, we have documented videos
Hmm.
where he is spreading the hatred.
Hmm.
He is threatening
Violence.
with policemen, officers
Yeah.
standing behind him, and he is
Being
innocent.
framed. The police
being
is.
framed.
Delhi police का दिल बहुत नरम है. Hmm.
Amid the delimitation debate, TN's M.K. Stalin said that 1971 census should remain the basis of delimitation of Lok Sabha for the next 30 years. He's appealed to young couples in Tamil Nadu to have children by next year.
So
So
between
get
him,
going.
between
Next
Stalin,
year.
the RSS chief, and a few other Swami
Let's just make
Chhatrapati
sure
type
we are-
people, Indians in any case are
Yeah.
on order having kids. Is it or?
This is nuts.
Hmm.
Senior RSS leader Suresh Bhaiyaji Joshi's statement that people coming to Mumbai don't have to learn Marathi triggered a controversy in Maharashtra. After a long time, I'm seeing Bhaiyaji Joshi make headlines actually.
And Marathi,
And for the wrong reasons.
if you are a crime reporter, you have to know Marathi because most of the FIRs are in Marathi.
Hmm.
Meanwhile, Devendra Fadnavis was quick to say that he hasn't heard this statement of his. And Marathi is a must in Mumbai and Maharashtra. We respect other languages, but there's no compromise on Marathi, as every person living in Maharashtra should know and learn Marathi.
In fact, Eknath
Marathi
Shinde
Manus.
made this statement that how can anyone betray Bala Sahab Thackeray's commitment to Marathi Manus and Marathi to remain the language. So basically, this whole, and Amit Shah's in Maharashtra today. No, sorry, he's in Tamil Nadu today. So the whole Hindi drive has got a bit blunted with Maharashtra also chipping in now.
Right.
Going back a couple of centuries, the big headline of this week was...
Not couple.
Yeah,
More than
four centuries.
4 centuries.
That's a great headline. We should say
Aurangzeb
going
was-
back a couple of centuries. And the latest news.
Yeah, the latest news was that Samajwadi Party MLA Abu Azmi got suspended from Maharashtra Assembly because he said that Aurangzeb was not a cruel ruler and that Aurangzeb built many temples, and he said he's not a cruel ruler. He also said that it wasn't Hindu and Muslim, the fights between Aurangzeb and the Marathas. So we can get into that.
And
But
on-
this was like main news throughout the...
And it made prime time on, and right on cue we have Dr. Sumeet Mhaskar who's joined us. Thank you so much, Sumeet.
Hi.
Have I pronounced your name correctly?
Yeah.
Okay. So do I call you Dr. Mhaskar or Sumeet?
Sumit is fine, yeah.
Okay. So for our audience, Dr. Sumeet Mhaskar is a professor of sociology at Jindal School of Government and Public Policy, OP Jindal Global University. He has earned his doctorate in sociology from the University of Oxford and holds an MA and MPhil in political science from JNU, New Delhi. He's a recipient of the prestigious research fellowship awarded by the Alexander von Humboldt, I've mispronounced that clearly, Foundation. And you can see the link of his episode with our colleague Sudipto on What's Your Ism, which got a lot of very fantastic feedback. So thank you, Sumeet, for joining us. We will just complete the headline and then come to the issue at hand from a few centuries ago.
Hundreds of farmers were detained by the Punjab police on Wednesday as they attempted to march towards Chandigarh. Farmers, part of the Sanyukt Kisan Morcha, were met with heavy security barricades at over 25 locations across the state. Self-professed miracle healer and face of many memes, Punjab pastor Bajinder Singh has been booked for sexual harassment, stalking and criminal intimidation.
And he's on the run.
As part of its ongoing drive against the drug menace, Punjab Police, meanwhile, has demolished houses and shops in Amritsar, 6 properties in Khanna, and they've conducted raids leading to arrests of 75 alleged drug smugglers. And there have been about 55 FIRs. And with this, the total drug smugglers arrested has reached 622 in just 6 days. So clearly, it's like now panic mode.
Yeah,
That we have to deliver. This was a promise.
because
now let's
drugs
start.
was the main promise.
Yeah,
But
that was the
what
main
I
promise,
find,
and they were not doing much.
But
over the
anyway,
past 2 years.
this demolition bit is not driven commonly, I mean,
yeah, it's not.
it's not
But
Yeah.
a
against one
demolition is a
community.
demolition. I still think even
Not
if it's
against
not
one
communal, but
community, no.
no. But if I am not involved in a crime, my house should not be razed down. Doesn't
No,
matter. I mean, if it's
No,
communal
I
or
think you're
not.
right. I mean, to your point, both can be true that it is not communally driven, but I think this thing of to show justice is done
Yeah.
as a metaphor for justice, bringing down godowns, homes, shops through bulldozers, was earlier a symbol of just Hindu dominance, or some say they even Hindu shops were demolished in Uttarakhand and Uttar Pradesh. But it was a thing of dekho that, the
Swift
bulldozer,
justice.
swift justice. Now if it's like catching on like a virus in other states, it's deeply worrying. Which
And
means
the
everyone should
central
move
thing
in.
is the
Everyone should move into society with flats. Then they cannot demolish.
house doesn't belong to one person.
No,
The
if-
family
if
should not
a-
suffer for the sins of one person,
I'm
even if
f-
they are
I'm
convicted.
fine if if a godown is found with full of drugs
Then you can
and
take
that godown is illegal. If
Ah,
they
that
if they
sure,
demolish
that's
it,
the
fine.
I completely
But
agree
yes,
with you.
if it is not illegal, if it has then seal it.
But yeah,
seal it
but
forever.
it's become a bit of a metaphor now. Anyway,
Supreme Court on Wednesday criticized the Uttar Pradesh government for demolishing the homes of a lawyer, a professor, and 3 others in Prayagraj in 2021, saying that such actions send a shocking and wrong signal.
And the Supreme Court has said this about 3 times now. Nothing seems to impact what actually happens on the ground.
Meanwhile, Prime Minister Narendra Modi inaugurated Anand Ambani owned wildlife conservation park Vantara in Gujarat. Lots of videos came out of it, lots of memes, lots of pictures of the PM chilling with
Sher ke saath.
shares.
Sher ke
हाँ,
saath.
ये all the BJP guys were tweeting Sawa Sher के साथ whatever. Days later, Gujarat Forest Minister Mulu Bhai Bera said that at least 286 lions, including 143 cubs, have died in Gujarat in the last 2 years.
But meanwhile, celebrities, because this was the perfect coming together of the 2 of the people who provide them protection and money, the Ambanis and Modi. So everyone from Shah Rukh Khan to Deepika Padukone to Virat Kohli said, what wonderful thing, Mr. Modi, at Anand, beta, you've done such a good job. It looks like a zoo. I don't know what it is, but it looks like a private zoo to me of some Mexican drug cartel.
I mean, there are
I
some
don't know the
lemurs.
legality of it, but from my senior IFS friends, what I've heard that they are really taking good care of animals, which we cannot. The government cannot.
We certainly can't.
Ah,
But
the
also, I
government.
think you're being harsh. Anand may be very good friends with everyone, and they're just promoting a friend's project. We all promote our friends' projects.
Why
so
not? Yeah.
They're all retweeting and congratulations to Anand. So it's basically.
Well, I try not to
Friendship.
promote my friend's project, but anyway, because that would really...
Then you're not a good friend. What sort of a friend are you?
Okay, then I can either be a good friend or a good CEO of Newslaundry.
No, not
Yeah.
true.
I'm happy to do that. Everyone, start doing wonderful stories about AAP.
Through
Done?
your personal handle you can do
Is
it.
that
I'm
done?
not saying news done. तो वो Reliance से थोड़ा ना कुछ करा रहे हैं. या
So
Red
you
Chilli
should
से थोड़ा ना
have
कुछ
2
करा रहे हैं.
identity or
Dude, if
even
I
on
do
Twitter.
it, you guys will eat up my head first.
No, Abhinandan
you
as
do it on your
CEO
personal
and
Twitter.
Even if I
Abhinandan-
do it on my... You'll be okay. Huh?
Arey, you're a very terrible friend if you're not doing it. Okay. The Bombay High Court stayed a Mumbai court's order directing the registration of an FIR against former SEBI chief Madhavi Puri Butch and 5 others over alleged stock market fraud. And other headline, stock market has been like...
Yeah, it's been coming down.
Donald Trump addressing the US Congress announced that reciprocal tariffs will be imposed on India, China and other countries on April 2nd. They're coming. Tariffs are coming. He said that India charges us auto tariffs higher than 100%. This system is not fair. So auto, textile, pharma, these are the 3 sectors that are going to really be impacted by this. However, he backed off of a previous announced tariffs on Canada and Mexico after market blowback. So he's given them 1 month of...
Yeah, but the thing
Time.
about, having Musk in a headline is that by the time this goes on, the headline has only changed. Whether it's on Ukraine, like today he said, there's a solution to Ukraine, only I know it. Nobody knows it. It's in his head, something.
To you,
Day after
for
tomorrow.
Ukraine, Russia.
Yeah. So day after tomorrow, he may say that I'm continuing arms supply. I really don't know what to make of it. But anyway, so those are the headlines. In the studio, Anand Vardhan, Manisha Pande, Raman Kirpal and me. But before Manisha, give us a bit context about what we're going to discuss regarding this history and its interpretation and, an MLA being suspended because he said that Aurangzeb was a good ruler or whatever that means, a good or a bad ruler. Before we get specific to that, Sumeet, history as a subject, has it always been as controversial as politics has made it? Not just in India. I remember during the, Black Lives Matter movement, etc. And there was, I don't know what that protests were in Europe, but they started bringing down statues of slave owners. There was this one...
Roads must fall. That kind of movement.
Yeah, and also someone said that the Rhodes Scholarship should be renamed because apparently Mr.
Yeah.
Rhodes, after whom it's named, had some history of, being a part of this entire Western imperialism, etc., etc. So has history always been very controversial, or has it become in the last 2 decades or so?
It is about, history is also about having different perspectives.
Mhm.
And what we see, at least in the present day, is that, of course, scholarship also develops by challenging the earlier views with new evidence or challenging earlier opinions, whether these initially founded on some solid evidence or not. And that is a good part about going, looking back at the past. But the politicization of that, of course, is in terms of bringing that alive in the present, seems to be a new thing. So there is no hidden secret that the Rhodes, after whom the Rhodes Scholarship was named, thrived on the slave trade or using the slaves for the sugarcane production or all kinds of products that were grown. He's not the only one. There are several of these traders who pretty much use the slaves as laborers. And that's how is also the foundation for several American private universities as well. So there is no secret to that. It's just a new trend that what do we do with the past? That it is there now, and what is the best way to correct that past? One of the ways in which probably countries like Canada are doing is that they admit that yes, the land which they are pretty much using was part of the Aborigines, and they admit that fact, and then they move ahead by admitting that fact. The other way is like breaking the Rhodes statue in Oxford University. That's the major, because that's where he studied, and that's where he also donated a big bunch of his wealth. So therefore, that one has a different kind of politicization. And probably what we see here right now with history, and which we will come to in a bit, is far more religious. It has far more religious connotation. And that is also twisted in terms of facts and how it is particularly used to carry forward a particular kind of politics. So I would say that these are two different strands in some way.
I see. Okay. Now, coming to the specific news cycle at hand, Manisha, just give us context of what was said and what action has been taken under what rule or law.
It starts from the fact that Chhava is this extremely popular movie which is on the life of Sambhaji. And I don't know what the context of the question was. Why was Abu Azmi talking about? I think he was responding to Chhava, the movie, which is kind of a very black and white retelling of the Maratha versus Aurangzeb wars. So he basically said that we should not look at Aurangzeb as a cruel guy. The GDP, India's GDP was very good. The rule extended till Afghanistan and blah, blah, blah. And that the wars back then weren't about Hindus and Muslims per se. It was two kingdoms going at each other, where I think he's absolutely right.
Yeah,
they weren't so neatly divided between Hindus and Muslims. But Sambhaji, Shivaji are legends in Maharashtra. And now we are at a point where we can't have any nuanced discussions about their rule, how they were, or how the Mughals were.
And they also want an FIR filed against him
They
they've already filed an FIR.
But
and he's been suspended from the
suspended
assembly,
also.
which I think is just a massive overreaction.
No, but any praise of Aurangzeb in Maharashtra is a taboo. I mean, you just
there are
Historically.
there are so many young people who've been slapped with UAPA for putting up WhatsApp, maybe like a line or an image of Aurangzeb as their DP. And so it's a very contentious issue in Maharashtra, precisely because Shivaji is a god there.
Right. In fact, it's gone so far. I think Uddhav Thackeray has asked for an FIR against Bhaiyaji Joshi for suggesting that you can get away with Hindi in Maharashtra without having to learn Marathi. So he said there should be an FIR against him. For what? For sedition. I'm like, dude, you were the chief minister of the state, yeah? Don't scare me like this.
No, I have another question. Anand, if there is a question on Aurangzeb in IAS exam and we end up criticizing Aurangzeb, I think you're going to lose your seat, no?
No, praising. If you praise Aurangzeb.
No. Worldwide, there is now a trend of archaeology of offense, like digging past for contemporary political stand and orientation. So whether it's Black Lives Movement or other means recollection of past. But it's not also new because historiography has schools. Means it is when you take an advanced course in history, first thing they teach you that these are the schools of historiography, and they generally focus on particular areas. Like we will emphasize this, we will emphasize that. So Aurangzeb, coming to Aurangzeb now. Say even Nehru in Discovery of India and other places labels him as a religious fanatic and a bigot. And Audrey Toske's book, which came in 2017, tried to defend Aurangzeb on various grounds of bigotry, and that no, he was not a bigot. But people who you cannot label as right of center, like Girish Shahne has written that no, he was not only bigot by today's standard, but he was bigot by the
standards back then.
and he has given a lot of evidence, and how Audrey Tuske's evidence is thin, and she has just picked it from so but that is a different matter here. Means now in Maharashtra, Shivaji is say deification as an icon, particularly in 60s by Shiv Sena, and later in now he became a political icon also because he is a symbol of resistance against the outsider. So against the outsider in 60s were the migrants, particularly from South India, and in 80s because of the communal tension in different places in India as well as Maharashtra, he became a symbol of resistance against the minorities like Muslims. So this in political iconography and deification of Shivaji, the resistance part is very important as a political narrative. So whether and how outsider is defined, it is sometimes defined as the migrant, sometimes the Muslims.
So at that time, he was the ideal political symbol to have for that xenophobic politics, if you like, which Bal Thackeray is. So Sumeet, I mean, do weigh in on everything because you will have the most informed view on this. But on a specific question, when we talk about rulers of the time, Ashoka, for example, the Kaling War, you would probably know numbers if at all they're credible, was one of the bloodiest. Yet he is seen as this wonderful man. But that's what kings did, right? They killed people, they raised, religious structures to the ground, and they established their authority. And if they're to be measured by today's standards, keeping everything else the same, I guess it would be efficiency and the extent of their rule, in which case Aurangzeb was extremely efficient, like Genghis Khan and the rest, of spreading his rule, because after that is when the empire collapsed. So do weigh in on that, and specifically on when I studied ICSE, I'm talking about the 80s, the chapter on Aurangzeb, like Anand rightly pointed out, he was taught to me that he was a bigot, cruel, Jazia, Shazia. Akbar was a wonderful man.
He was the worst of the Mughals, basically.
Akbar was a wonderful man. Golden age of the Gupta Empire. I remember those chapters. If only they had been written in some way that would keep my interest alive. So even I could have had a teacher like the professor here. But I remember Akbar, nice guy, Aurangzeb, horrible guy, Bimbisara and Ajatasattu, 4-line chapters. So they were my favorite chapters because you had to know nothing on them. But that's what was taught to us. Was it good, bad, ugly? And Ashoka, of course, wonderful man, even though he oversaw the bloodiest war.
I think maybe I'll just go to Abu Azmi's kind of situation, because I think his kind of comment has to be looked at against the backdrop of Chhava movie and the debate it has actually stirred in Maharashtra. So if you look at several Marathi news channels, there is a constant debate now. For the last 1 week, all major news channels are carrying out debate that what exactly is the story about Sambhaji Maharaj here, and who is responsible for his death. Of course, his death was brutal, and the way it is characterized, one may agree or disagree. But I think, as you said, Abhinandan, that's what rulers were doing. So that's besides. The point here is that there is one view which has come through these debates, is that there were these clerks of the Brahmin clerk army who actually passed on the information to Aurangzeb about the whereabouts of Sambhaji, and which actually led to the capture of Sambhaji and then what happened later. Then there is one more information that is being circulated, that there are also these Maratha Jagirdars who also were complicit in this passing on the information. So as far as the history is concerned, much of Sambhaji's history that we know comes from the early 19th century, from the Bakhars that they would call in Peshwa's times. And in that Bakhar, the way Sambhaji is projected is that he's a drunkard and he was a womanizer. And that kind of interpretation was again reproduced in the late 19th century Marathi literature. And that became a part of popular discourse. But without challenging this particular image of Sambhaji, there was another kind of interpretation saying, okay, fine, he was a drunkard and womanizer, but he was also a brave leader, and he was somebody, Dharmavir, the protector of the religion. So this kind of interpretation got only challenged much later in the 80s and more prominently in the 1990s. So it took really long period to challenge this interpretation, because it is in the 90s that Maratha organizations emerged, like 2000s, particularly Sambhaji Brigade kind of organizations of Marathas emerged, where they also begin to challenge that how can you say that Sambhaji was a drunkard or a womanizer? Is there a historical evidence to that? And then this particular image is being challenged by different kind of evidences, saying that he was, he was a very knowledgeable person. He knew Sanskrit. He knew several languages. He was, of course, a brave leader. And then there is this another image that is projected, is that of a Swarajya Raksha. So instead of Dharmavir, it is about Swarajya Raksha, because we are not talking about a war between two religious kind of kingdoms, but it is more about the Swarajya, or the particular that Swaraj that Maratha kingdom was. And because on both sides, you have people from both religions. So from Aurangzeb's side, you also have Brahmins, you also have Marathas who are working for Aurangzeb. And also same thing for Sambhaji, that you have Brahmins, you have Marathas, and you also have Muslims who are working for Sambhaji. And therefore, this interpretation is a matter of contestation. So what was happening post Chhava film was that this particular discussion on particular caste was actually disturbing the communal narrative. And what happens with, and this is my reading of the situation, is that the moment Abu Azmi makes this statement, and if I'm not wrong, Abu Azmi was asked questions something about the north of India, because there were some temples which were patronized by Aurangzeb in North India. And then Abu Azmi happened to, of course, say that, Sambhaji needs to be also looked at into broader perspective of the nice things he may have done. But then the moment Abu Azmi talks that, everything is now shifted, the entire discourse is on the communal lines. And then, therefore, now Aurangzeb is seen as this Muslim ruler and who brutally killed Sambhaji, who is a Hindu leader. So therefore, this particular tension has always remained in Maharashtra. And I have a slightly different opinion again on the Shivaji, that as far as Shivaji is concerned, one image is that of the protector of cows and Brahmins, which is the Brahminical interpretation of Shivaji. Then there is a non-Brahmin interpretation, which is where Jyotirao Phule is the first to actually go and check his grave of Shivaji, and he describes Shivaji as Kulwadi Bhushan, and Kulwadi meaning the people who are peasants and toiling masses. So he is the leader of those masses. And this conflict of these two interpretations has always remained in Maharashtra. Of course, political parties who are on the side of more communalizing narrative would use Shivaji's that image of being, the protector of cows and Brahmin and protector of religion. And same thing is now happening with Sambhaji, that you have to provoke that kind of image, that he was a Dharmavir, that he was fighting for the religion. And therefore, his death should be seen as an attack on the Hindu religion.
Right.
Whereas that is not clearly the case. So there are contestations that are very much there in the public sphere.
And that is how it was back then, I'm guessing. Across, whether it's Aurangzeb or any other ruler or king, it was king versus king, right? Now, for example, Aurangzeb, some of his main generals were fighting the Rajputs for Rajput, whereas Chetak, who was the master of Chetak?
Rana Pratap.
Rana Pratap. Rana Pratap's general was Muslim. Is that true? There were these Muslim general to a Hindu Rajput ruler.
Sambhaji also had a Muslim brigade. Like their war cry was Yali. The Shias who were persecuted by Aurangzeb. So
in fact, there are pretty much historical records of Shivaji having his most trusted lieutenant as who is from a Muslim community, and he also patronized one of the dargahs. So all these informations are there. It's just that much more communalized interpretation is projected through movies, through the history textbooks, and through plays. So, and one of the variants, which is the anti-caste Ambedkarite kind of variant, which actually took form in one of the plays in Bombay, which was performed like a couple of years ago. The play was titled as Shivaji Underground in Bhimnagar Mohalla, which pretty much actually challenged this communal narrative of Shivaji, where it showed various caste groups who were associated with Shivaji's army, various religious groups who were associated. And therefore, this Hindu-Muslim binary has been broken down. But obviously, as far as the Maratha groups are concerned, they haven't really taken forward this Swarajya Rakshak image of Sambhaji to the masses, because probably this is where there is this conflict over Swarajya Rakshak or Dharamveer. And somehow I think it's interesting that the Chhava film brings out these kind of debates. But then Abu Azmi's comment are not new. Prakash Ambedkar himself had visited Aurangzeb's, this grave in 2023. And he had also, he paid a floral tribute to that. And he also said that there is nothing wrong in visiting, and he was a ruler, and one should know history very well. And of course, Aurangzeb ruled for 50 to 60 years. And given the kind of wide-ranging complexities that India has in terms of so many sects, religion, and all kinds of things, it would be impossible to be this brutal ruler and only be ruling for continuously for 60 years. One has to accommodate several things. So rather than looking for a very kind of pure kind of history that, which doesn't have any kind of obstructions, this is what is creating a problem, because we are trying to frame history through present. Rather, the past should be informing us about the present. So we are trying to use present to look at past. And the past was far more complex.
And not just that, before I throw it over to the panel for your comments also, a couple of things. One is that which is the place where we discuss history as an academic exercise? One would think, panel discussions could be those, like, Sumeet said, showbiz will be showbiz. Showbiz, like even, I think History Channel or Discovery had done that mega budget show on Jesus several years ago. It was for mass consumption. So it will be a certain type. A film like JFK will be of a certain type. It, promoted some conspiracy theories without any evidence, but it was to become a super hit in Hollywood. Similarly with Chhava, politicians will use it for political purposes. But I would hope there are some places, because news panels are out. News panels have people like, what's her name? Times Now ki jo editor hai. Navika saying that, what did she say about you're from Pakistan? If you log pooch rahe, main nahi pooch rahi, you've covered this information.
That was for Shama Mohammed.
Yeah, it's disgusting. So news panels are out. The assembly is out. So where do you discuss history in a sensible way? Because Hollywood, Bollywood, and politics will always discuss it in a very partisan way. Have we completely finished that option in our country?
No, just adding to what you are saying before my take. Bollywood is actually using present to look at the past. I mean, as
And also
Sumit said,
financially, it's very viable
yeah,
for them. No?
yeah, it is viable for all purposes. I mean,
Hmm.
to be in good books of the present government. No,
शायद tax free भी हो जाए. Hmm.
No, I think each person. I mean, Aurangzeb had different shades. He was cruel, as we say, because he killed his brother. I think Dara Shikoh.
Yeah.
Then he imprisoned his own father.
As did so many others.
He imprisoned his own father,
Hmm.
and he also got his Hindu employees converted. I mean, as some people claim. So these are the things which say that he was bigot and he was
Right.
cruel. But administratively, as Sumit says, I mean, of course, he lived for 88 years and he ruled for 55 years. So I mean, obviously, and in entire India came under him. And Akbar was liberal, Shah was not so liberal, and he was bigot. This is how we
Have been taught history.
Taught history. So he had different shades. He must be a good administrator because he ruled for 50 years, and for the first time, the entire most of India
Peninsula was under
came
one
under
rule.
him.
Right.
So I think
Manisha?
that is it.
So, I think three things. One is, when you look at the Mughals, I would say Aurangzeb was the worst of them. And to me, the legacy a person leaves behind is what happens to something after you die, the institution, after you're gone. So for us, and that's why probably we were taught Akbar is great, and I consider Akbar great, because here's this man who comes, who forms this formidable alliance with the Rajputs and makes Mughal Empire into a force that lasts 2 generations. He's equally cruel. It's not like, I don't think, when we talk about cruelty, but I'll come to that later, Akbar and actually Mughal Empire after Akbar is a Rajput Mughal enterprise. It is not Muslims. It is very much Muslims and Hindus fighting wars together. And Aurangzeb hacks at it. He completely, goes against that spirit of making concessions when it comes to taxation or religious festivals or celebrating your religious festival or whatever. And that is why the Mughal Empire completely crumbles after him. He doesn't leave anything.
Damn, you're really paying attention in history class, man.
No, now but that is what happens to.
So मैं तो मसा pass हुआ.
And I think so for me, and that is, once we're a weak Hindustan, quote unquote, and that's how then the East India Company comes in, whatever. So to me, he's not great. He's an odd hill to die on, I think, for a current politician, especially for Abu Azmi. And politicians have to use these figures to say something to the public, right? Gandhi's use of Ram or Ram Rajya was to convey something. So for a modern day politician, I think you don't have to defend Aurangzeb. You can be crafty enough, because you're not an academic, you're not getting into nuances, and no one will anyway get nuances. So you have an Akbar. You can fight for Akbar, I think. You can die on that hill, rather than as somebody who promotes temple constructions, talks about religion, talks about people getting together, fights together, rather than be with this, small-hearted person that I think Aurangzeb was till the very end of his life.
Maybe it was not his informed opinion, but I won't say that he should not say.
I'm saying freedom of expression is a different thing. But I'm saying if you are a crafty, smart politician, what is the messaging you want to give out?
Your battle.
I think you can choose your battle better with Akbar than with Aurangzeb. On the aspect of cruelty, it's very interestingly, when I'd gone to West Bengal for the elections, the Khela Hobby song, the first line I asked this guy who sang it, who's now, I think he's an MLA. The first line says, my Bengali is, I can't say it, but it basically says, Bahar Deshe Borgi Ache. Like, basically the first line says that outsiders, Borgis have come. And they were equating Borgis to the BJP. That was TMC's slogan. So I asked them, who were Borgis? Borgis were Maratha raiders in the 17th century that came to West Bengal, who were known to plunder and deeply cruel force. They are known for looting, raping, pillage. So that was the time. I mean, no one was exceptionally. I think even Akbar and Shah Jahan were equally cruel as
So
Aurangzeb.
so if
So
we had
cruelty was
to
a feature of
make
that time. I
India
think.
great again, the Bajrang Dal wing of the BJP, that is the great India, because that's clearly what they do. Sorry, Ajoy has joined us. Hi, Ajoy Bose. We will be coming to.
No, I'm so hearing Mughal history.
Yes, in fact, we have a fantastic panel. We have Dr. Sumeet Mhaskar talking to us about, in fact, informing me about lots of things that I wasn't aware of. But before we, come to the BSP and Behenji, and we will also plug your book, which is now old, and we have had you on that ages ago.
And please plug the third edition, which came out in 2018, which was changed a little bit. It's called Behenji, of course, but instead of the subtitle being the political biography of Mayawati, I said the rise and fall of Mayawati.
Oh, I see.
So that was 7 years ago. And in 7 years ago, a lot of people, I mean, of course, she was furious with me and her supporters, but also quite a few political pundits thought that I had too hastily written a political obituary.
We'll get to that, yes. But Anand, let's come back to more recent times from 4 centuries ago.
I want to add one thing on Marathas. Though.
Yes, please go ahead. Carry on.
Marathas, I think I completely get the legend of them and why they're so important, precisely in the same way that I think I find the Vietnamese resistance against America quite fascinating. In the same way, I think Marathas, through his life, Aurangzeb spends trying to beat them and he's unable to do it. So the resistance they put up, now we are giving it a communal color, and like Sumit said, it's more about, your national or your territorial integrity, but it was quite a remarkable force.
Yeah,
although they were able to push back in a very remarkable way while being mostly peasants, right? That would be the accurate description, not very heavily, with artillery, not really trained in warfare or not as sophisticated as the Mughal army, but really like raiders who could wreak havoc.
Anand, anything you want to
No.
weigh in on what you've heard?
No, these things are there. Means talking of Bengal, whole Bankim Chand Chattopadhyay's Anand Math, from where Vande Mataram is taken, is a literary work where the rise of people against Muslim rule. It's basically based on that. People forget that. So Bengal had different kinds of articulation of resistance. Means in different kind. Anyway, so I think it is not very difficult. Like E.H. Carr, the great British historian, said that read the historian before you read the history. He will like the history he likes. So there have been different interpretations, but some of the arguments, as Girish Shahane's essay on Aurangzeb debunks, like he protected temples. So he says that if a sexual predator leaves 5 women and molests 10, you will say he's a great human being. So this is also, he says that the court chronicles of Aurangzeb himself, also the land endowment, or the discriminatory tax, and this whole idea, because he had such a large empire, the nobility that he incorporated from Marathas and other religion would naturally be large. Also, Audrey Tuske's book makes the claim that it was the largest consolidation of Indian subcontinent, and Sahane says that's wrong. He reproduces the map of Mauryan Empire centuries ago. So some of the historical context is, I'm not taking sides, but what I'm saying, I am more interested in the play of ideas and forces of history rather than which community favored whom. But these historical debates will go on. Also, I think, as Darrell Limper and the scholarship now said, that we were, because of a political necessity of nation building post-independence, squeamish about certain parts of history. So they were not openly discussed, and a lot of wounds have also come from them. Of course, the political mileage that has been taken of those wounds is there, politicization is there, political agenda is there, but a lot of things are in play.
Actually, which is, and the point you said that even without taking sides, if one was just a position of curiosity to approach it, because for me, I'm not informed enough yet to weigh in that where I am, but where I stand on either of these. But what my fear is that it's shrinking. Like, I cannot imagine a discussion like this should be happening on, if not every channel, at least on 3 channels. But there, if you say, like, I've seen people flip out, someone referred to, Shivaji, Chhatrapati bolne ka hai, nahi to nikalne ka. Like, dude, calm down, yaar. Like, can
no,
we
and
just
like
talk?
what Sumit was saying about Sambhaji, it's true. In fact, Shivaji was upset with him for quite a while, and he joined Aurangzeb for a brief while. But you're not going to hear that anywhere.
So, on this
I think
historical thing, sorry, one specific question. Sumit, you studied it, you're from Maharashtra, am I right?
I'm from Bombay. Yeah, originally.
So there, you look pretty young, but how long ago did you study history? And in your history books, how were these? Because there was no chapter on Shivaji in my history book. There was one on Aurangzeb and Akbar and all that. But
like in Bihar,
Hmm.
in our textbooks, in government textbooks, I went to a government school. So Veer Kunwar Singh is a big figure, but if you walk outside of Bihar, he is a very marginal figure. So these regional icons sometimes get disproportionate space in
Depending
school
on which-
state textbook.
Yeah. So tell us about your experience with history in school, and then about the larger, as a scholar, what you heard right now.
Yeah. I mean, I think I studied in early 90s in school the history of Shivaji, and that is one of the textbook which has remained unchanged forever.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. And that's one thing that tells a lot about the way Shivaji is projected. And as I said, there are several ways in which Shivaji is viewed, and that's why nobody is disputing his legacy. It's just the problem is with the interpretation, that which interpretation should one go with. Of course, the Brahmins in then Maharashtra refused to coronate his ceremony because they said he was a Shudra. And then the Gaga Bhatt from North India had to be brought in specially to conduct the ceremony. So therefore, to say that he was the protector of cows and Brahmin does not hold true. And then you have Jyotira Phule, who brings out attention to the grave and says he's actually the leader of the toiling masses and the peasants.
And one question,
So
was Aurangzeb unique in imposing a discriminatory tax? Wasn't that common for a lot of Mughal rulers at the time?
It was mostly in North India, though.
Okay. But he wasn't the only one who, Jazia you're talking about, right? Or was there something else?
Also in much later period during his rule. So it's not in the very beginning. Aurangzeb also in the later period in his rule, he imposes jizya. But of course, historians have written that it was not implemented very rigorously. Now, one can again, debate about that, whether it was done or not. But I think what I would like to just add one thing to what Manisha said about that. Of course, there is no dispute about his cruelty. But what is at the heart of this whole debate in Maharashtra is not the part of cruelty, is about who is responsible for that. How did the Aurangzeb reach there? How was he successful in getting hold of them? Exactly. Who could be called a traitor?
This joker from India today who
like
keeps using Jaychand. Yeah, what's his name? Commando. Commando Gaurav. The Jaychands of our country should be like.
So who is the traitor? Like, what are the two popular narratives
Jaychand has
about?
become this common noun that anyone who is a left liberal is a Jaychand for India.
Yeah, so I think that's has been the discourse so far. And this communal discourse is to do away with that discourse, because then the history is far more complex. Then people have been talking, at least on the Marathi channels, that look, there were Muslims on both sides, there were Hindus or the Marathas on both sides, and therefore to make this a religious angle is not correct, and also to project the image as Dharmavir is also not correct. Maybe Swarajya Rakshak, that he was the protector of the region, is a better one. And of course, he got killed through brutal murder or whatever one can call it. That is not under dispute. What is under dispute is if it has to be a communal narrative, then one has to really show evidence that this was really about a Muslim ruler going after a Hindu king. But that is not being able to establish.
Okay.
And one last point here is that Abu Azmi's statement also comes at a time when the Maharashtra Assembly is in session and where the current government was absolutely in a difficult situation with the resignation of this Munde, and there are one of his associates has been found in the murder of the Maratha Sarpanch in the Western Maharashtra or in the Beed district. And that has been really going on news for last like several weeks. And now the photos of that particular murder have been surfaced where, all those who are involved in the murder of that Sarpanch are smiling and they're taking selfies. And this has created massive furor in Maharashtra.
Yeah, and there's one of him urinating on the semi-dead man.
Exactly,
It's
yeah,
shocking.
exactly.
It's
So
just-
that would have been a major discussing point in assembly. And that
Instead now-
completely got sidelined with Abu Azmi's statement.
And with the
So
complicity
therefore,
of
Abu Azmi's
media.
statement has to be also looked against this background.
Yeah.
And the entire assembly was talking only about condemning Abu Azmi and how he should be suspended from the particular session, not from the assembly yet. So his suspension is only for this particular session.
Yeah.
But anyway, coming back to Aurangzeb and Sambhaji, I think that's the background and that's the complexity.
So they'd rather discuss what happened 4 centuries ago rather than this, what happened right now,
yes,
which is
which was so
discussed. It
gruesome.
was gruesome. But I had
And
another...
BJP's unease with caste politics. They
Is-
resort to communalism.
And a completely complicit media saying, okay, we will do your bidding. Let's make this the issue of the week rather than what should be the issue of the week. But Sumeet, I had one more question, but I just want to also move on to Ajoy because I think Ajoy also needs to go in 20 minutes or so. So Ajoy, before I come to you, I want to tell the audience once again, you see, discussions like this are important and we can have them because you don't resort to ads from either my friends, as I pointedly look at Manisha and Raman, or from those who dislike me, or us, or from large multinational corporations or Indian corporations. We depend on you. There's a QR code. Support our journalism, support our project where the News Minute and Newslaundry will send teams across the country to look at police atrocities. This kind of public interest journalism can only happen if you pay for it. But if governments and industrialists who also run private zoos pay for it, you'll only hear Aurangzeb and what happened 55 million years ago. And there's a governor of, I don't know, Uttarakhand who's recently said that India had invented aircrafts. India was the one who had invented everything from internet. And now there
something
is
happens from Uttarakhand,
Manisha
they
said-
just look at me.
State.
So I'm like, if this is what the governor is saying, that, oh yeah, Newton is credited with discovering the laws of gravity. Our Vedas have references to
Ah.
gravity.
I thought
also
you'd say
look at
Newton
it.
was Hindu.
Newton must
So
have
anyway, so
copied.
the QR code isn't flashing. Contribute, pay to keep news free. Be a part of the solution, not part of the problem. Now, we welcome Ajoy. Those of you who have been consuming Newslaundry for years would remember he has actually appeared on Hafta many years ago when Hafta was still new. He's a veteran journalist. He has over 45 years of experience, although you wouldn't guess it if you looked at him. As a print and TV columnist, his books include For Reasons of State, Delhi Under Emergency. His other book is Behenji, A Political Biography, 3rd edition. And Across the Universe, The Beatles in India. The link to all 3 books
Oh,
is
very
in the show
diverse.
notes. You can click on the link and order it. But Ajoy, the context is now Mayawati, she's expelled her Navy from the party, right? Not just removed him from position. You have said that there has been a rise and fall of Mayawati. There is she was a political player. I remember in 2007 is when she became chief minister with that brute majority, right? I remember way before Modi made it, trendy, I had never seen anyone treat media with such disdain as she did. And I must say, quite happy back then because Newslaundry hadn't started. So I just used to sit and media hadn't got as insane as it is now. There was zero coverage of Mayawati up to the run-up. And that time, Rajdeep was running CNN IBN, Prannoy was running NDTV, and I think Times Now had also started. Or there was every other party was represented. Mayawati would not send her spokespersons. And she then did that famous, I think she was in a gulabi with that handbag and that she held that press conference and she laughingly said, Inko chai vai pila do. And then suddenly all the media was, oh my God, what a wave, what a woman, ye wo. But she was such a political force. And she was so relevant. But in Delhi, in UP, what happened? Is it, as Manisha said, Kanshiram created something significant which became stronger. So he was the Akbar of the movement, and the Aurangzeb
My
onwards, just it
God. Don't
went
compare
down.
Mayawati Aurangzeb.
What do you think? So, how would you interpret this?
Blasphemy!
Well, just a slight aside on the media and Mayawati. She did have a lot of problems with the media, but it was both ways. I think media treated Mayawati in her early years with tremendous disdain.
Yeah, that of course, because company Savarna
and-
dominated. You see Newslaundry reports. The
Yeah,
media
yeah.
is
I mean,
just
it
one
was
narrative. They
really
don't.
biased. I mean, and there was open because particularly the Hindi media, but even the English mainstream media, there was open bias because she was pretending to be, this Dalit woman who was trying to come up, and she was a very feisty, person, much more feisty than today. But I think the saga of Mayawati is really quite phenomenal and probably unprecedented. Even in this tremendously, richly layered political scenario in India, in modern Indian politics, essentially because it did promise first Kanshiram, but Kanshiram's battering ram was Mayawati. If Kanshiram was the strategic, genius who thought of using the bottom of the social heap, the Dalits, arguably the most oppressed community in the world, to become a political force, I mean, Mayawati was the person who really delivered in the country's by far most popular state, Uttar Pradesh. But it was in a particular era. We must remember that it was in the post-Mandal era where Indian politics was also undergoing a tremendous change, where upper castes, who had dominated most parties till then, were really on the run, because there was this new feeling among the lower castes and the middle castes that their time had come. Now, this was a situation where the upper caste, and particularly the Brahmins, the elite of the upper caste, and the thinking classes, or thinking caste, I think they felt that they needed support from the Dalits to somehow break this new upsurge among the lower and middle castes. So I think what happened was that successive Brahmin leaders, particularly in the BJP, but also in the Congress, did try and boost Kanshiram's project, which was to create an alliance of the dispossessed and also a section of the Muslim minority. But there was no question that there was help from the upper castes, in helping them. And I think Mayawati became chief minister thrice with the support of the BJP and the tacit kind of acceptance of her by the Congress as well. To keep leaders like Mulayam Singh Yadav, who was also coming up very fast, down. And Kanshiram used this very shrewdly. Mayawati delivered because she was an extremely charismatic leader, and she became chief minister on her own, turning the tables on the Brahmin, and upper caste parties like both the BJP and the Congress by striking a deal with the Brahmins herself. So 2007,
on her terms, importantly.
on her terms.
Yeah.
And in 2007, that's when I started writing. When I started writing the book, and I wrote the book, her biography, because she was really a fascinating story. A fascinating story on several levels, because her own personal saga was very interesting. This extremely ambitious young girl who wanted, to be ruler. The BSP itself, the party, was a very unique party. Most parties have a history, but the BSP, there was no comparison with the Republican Party, which Ambedkar formed, or even the Dalit Panthers or something. The BSP was a very unique party. And of course, thirdly, I always empathized with the Dalits because they were really at the bottom of the social heap. And it really meant hell of a lot for the Dalits. And she became chief minister on her own. And that was the time when there was this huge expectation, both from her and the BSP. By that time, Kanchiram had become ill, and not long after, he passed away. So it was Mayawati in command. So I think what we saw, Mayawati as chief minister, introducing quite a few new things in Uttar Pradesh. Firstly, she didn't have the sort of connections with the criminal mafia, which other leaders had. Uttar Pradesh had already, was boasting of some very, very big criminal warlords. D.P. Yadav, Harishankar Tiwari,
Shahabuddin, Raja Bhaiya.
No, Shahabuddin
Yeah,
is from
Raja
Bihar.
Bhaiya.
Acha, sorry,
Raja
from
Bhaiya,
Bihar,
whom she
sorry.
took on.
I got my
Whom
states
she
mixed
took
up.
Mukhtar
on.
and Shahabuddin.
Mukhtar Ansari. Yes.
Yeah, whom she took on. I mean, Raja Bhaiya was the most
Atiq.
daring
Atiq
instance of Mayawati taking on frontally a woman, a Dalit woman, taking on this Thakur warlord. I mean, that was quite amazing. And I think we were all impressed by that. She was also, I think, I remember her bureaucrats saying that they were very surprised that they found her taking all the files home, because she felt those files were so important that she couldn't leave them in office. And then she used to hold meetings wearing a nightie, it's shocking everybody, in a house. So she was quite different type of chief minister. And although she had the media completely at her throat, because the media never forgave her, even after she became chief minister, I think that she did, in the first couple of years, did impress as chief minister. Unfortunately, just as it seemed that Mayawati, because of becoming chief minister in UP on her own steam, but also because she was getting more and more support across the nation, not just from Dalits, but a lot of other castes, even sections of the Muslim minority. In 2009, it all came to a head in parliament when she was seen as the leader of a coalition supported by the left and several other factions, including the BJP, to topple the then Manmohan Singh government over the nuclear issue. And I think that was her peak, absolutely. And then she really seriously started dreaming of becoming the country's first Dalit prime minister.
And which again, I'll just come back to you if that's still possible. Do you think that political obituaries are fraught with risk? But before I open it out here, I just want to go across to Sumeet, because from Maharashtra, I've always been curious. All the main ideologues or the symbols of the marginalized movements have been from Maharashtra, and yet the most solid pushback came in Uttar Pradesh. I'm right now discounting my motherland, Tamil Nadu, which, like on everything else, did everything 30 years before everybody else did with Periyar. But unfortunately, the Justice Party, after it broke up, it is led by Brahmins, which is a bit strange. But I remember I wrote a piece for NDTV in 2008 because I remember I voted Mayawati back then. And all my friends in Delhi used to be shocked that how could you vote in the Lok Sabha? And when Obama's speech happened in Chicago, I don't know if you recall, but I guess you guys were studying and doing more productive things with your life. I just used to watch news channels 5 hours a day. And every channel was like, where is India's Obama? Where is India's Obama? And I wrote a piece. Dude, she came and went. You fuckers didn't even notice. Because she's not your definition of Obama. Harvard, suit, penegi, evo. She was India's Obama. But for you, she was not the Obama of your choice. So in fact, that piece is on my blog still. But what do you think, Sumeet? How has such a solid political force, waned to an extent where the data in Delhi from Kanshira's time of 10% vote share going to below 2, has she ceded space? Has she not, retained that ideological purity or ambition? Even sidelining new and upcoming leaders like Chandrasekhar Azad, etc. And why is Maharashtra not the fountainhead of this movement?
I think as far as Maharashtra is concerned, what we have to also understand is in terms of population of Dalits, these are very contrasting cases, UP and Maharashtra. In Maharashtra, the proportion of Dalits is barely 10%. And within that 10%, you have the neo-Buddhists who go with the Ambedkarite ideology. And that's where you have the major split. They have stayed mostly with either RPI or with Prakash Ambedkar's earlier party called Bharip Bahujan Mahasangh, or different kinds of political parties. And BSP also had some space there. And the Chamar community in Maharashtra has gone with Shiv Sena historically.
Okay.
So you don't have that kind of combination. So that's number one. So number game is not in favor of Dalit politics in Maharashtra as well. Forget about Mayawati for that matter. And for that reason, there has been not really much force in Maharashtra, although on cultural front and other fronts, it's way ahead compared to UP. So that would be my explanation as far as Mayawati's or BSP's trajectory in Maharashtra is concerned. This is not to say that they did not have presence. They still have some presence here and there, which has completely declined in the last 10 years.
Okay.
But interestingly, what I note is there are these two political parties which have more or less declined from 2012. And media treats both these political parties very differently. One is BSP, which has been more or less going down since 2012. And on the other hand, you have the Raj Thakre's MNS, which has also been just having negligible electoral influence pretty much. But the amount of attention that Raj Thakre and the Maharashtra Navnirman Sena gets is by far greater, despite the fact that election after election, his performance has been absolutely being decimated. So therefore, I think partly it's also what we understand about any political party is also what, general, whether we like it or not, how the media projects or how much space media gives to any of this. And of course, there are also different kinds of strategies which BJP adopted, which is what popularly is also seen, that they adopted Kanshiram's formula, that to defeat them, they got together all kinds of non-dominant or numerically non-dominant scheduled castes, non-dominant OBCs, and they pitted them against these leaders. So it's like a movement and counter movement constantly happening. So it's not that once Mayawati arrives there is clear ground. I mean, at the same time, on the other hand, BJP has been working, and I think that is something BSP did not adopt very fast to these changes. Plus the aspiration of their own voters, that the voters want to be part of the party in power in some way. Not necessarily.
But don't you think Mayawati's voter? Let me just come to the panel before we go online again. It's the most sticky. The loyalty Mayawati's base had, I have seldom seen that loyalty among any political party, and even that she seems to be losing. And like Ajoy said, her entire USP was her feistiness. She was a warrior, and now she seems more of someone who is willing to kind of step back for whatever, because of CBI ED, which is the formula that BJP uses. Was that a USP that's gone? Or do you think it's just the juggernaut of BJP, that inevitability of their taking over the vote? Or, I mean, what I'm saying is that tsunami has swallowed everybody, or is Mayawati unique in that sense? Her, lack of relevance in national politics.
No, see, in numbers, she had 30 point some percent vote in at her zenith in 2007, and in 2012, the last assembly election in UP, it was around 13%.
In 2019, you mean?
No, sorry, 2022.
22, sorry.
22.
Right.
2022 last assembly election.
Down to 19, you're saying?
No, 13.
13, okay.
In the last
It dropped to below 10%.
Yes, in
Lok Sabha
in
it
Lok
was
Sabha, 9 point, and in absolute numbers, it is around 80 lakh votes.
Okay.
So, so 80 lakh votes is also not insignificant. Means, of course, with all odds, she held her ground somewhere. Means not to the degree that she was not expected to, but once she held. I think there are 2-3 things. The feistiness came from the fact that it was a high. 2007, if you contextualize it, it was a time when a one-party government had come to UP after many years. So before that, all say for more than 1.5 decade in UP, there was fractured verdict, and this kind of coalition governments. Also there were weird experiments like 3 years you, 3 years me, and these kind of things. Now 2007 was a very decisive verdict in the sense that one party formed the government, and her governance, because people after this kind of very indecisive governments, people like decisive leaders. So she was seen as good in administration.
At the risk of sounding like a Delhi columnist, that I was traveling on the highway and it was so lovely, so Gadkari is amazing. I do recall that the approach from the airport to central Lucknow after she came was phenomenal. From a very dirty looking town,
Nagar is completely
it just became really nice. It looked like a city.
And also law and order. A lot of people do say that it was the best under her.
So also law and order, and also see in a time when there was no social media, see also pandered to the optics, suspending officials on the spot, and these things, and there was TV channel capturing it. So one of the points of discussion is that why Yogi Adityanath's government is not following Supreme Court's order on demolition. One theory that I have is that they want to show that we are very, very tough on law and order, and the judiciary is coming in the way. I think feistiness also came. She was looking, and also as I was pointing out, in post-Mandal politics, one strand that I want to point out is that in rural swaths of Uttar Pradesh and some other states also, the OBC in post-Mandal politics was seen as the key adversary of the scheduled castes, not the upper castes, because they were very empowered by Mandal politics, political empowerment, and this made the SCs say natural ally of the upper caste leaders looking for political power, because in rural Uttar Pradesh, upper caste were seen as a lesser evil than many powerful OBC leaders.
Right.
So it's more, we will not go into, in post Green Revolution, it has been a case in a lot of states. So this realignment that led to Bahujan brand of politics, then her Bhaichara brand, Bhaichara Yatra she used to do. Now that has shrunk because one is that the Dalit community is not very consolidated. It is divided between Jatavs and non-Jatavs. She has Jatav support base, but non-Jatav vote has slipped away from her to BJP, and to a degree this Samajwadi Party, now they have this, what is it? They call it Alpsankyak Dalit Pichhada, PDA. So this also the winnability factor. People like say the minority vote like to back candidates who can actually defeat BJP candidate.
Right. So it's that is, I think, something is common across the country. But Ajoy,
yeah, I'd like to come in very quickly, just sort of to cut to the chase and go back to what happened after 2009, when, of course, Manmohan Singh won that crucial vote, sort of in 2008, and then, of course, went on to win a second term. Now, I think Mayawati was quite disrupted in her thinking. Till then, she just felt, Mayawati thinks in a straight line. So that's I always said, it's the shortest point between points A and B. And she got quite distracted by her prime ministerial dream being dashed like this. And I think she made some fundamental mistakes in handling the social alliance that brought her to, a full majority government. And therefore, firstly, her main advisor, Satish Mishra, a Brahmin, the Dalits felt that somehow the Brahmins and other upper castes have taken over the government, and the Dalits were not getting enough out of Mayawati. Secondly, as Anand was saying very correctly, the Dalits are a bit of a misnomer, because although the Jatav vote is the predominant Dalit vote in UP, there are the Parsis, there are the Valmikis. So these people felt that Mayawati is only a Jatav leader. So what happened in the 2012 election was that at that time, with the new young Akhilesh Yadav coming up, the Brahmins slipping away from the BSP, so she lost. From then on, there has been a rapid slide. Now, Mayawati's problem has been twofold. One, without Kanshiram, she lacks the strategic sense. She lacks the larger political acumen which Kanshiram provided. She's basically a tactical warrior. And I think she got hemmed in by the changing scenario after the rise of the Modi juggernaut, fueled and backed by Amit Shah's Amit Shah spent a lot of time in UP plotting and planning. Because in 2012, the BJP's results were terrible in UP. They really came down, very bad. So I think that what happened was that Mayawati started sliding fast. And to make it worse, this cases against Mayawati after Modi came to power, the BJP did exercise a lot of pressure. And increasingly, it was found and it was suspected by many people who were close to her, because this is what I'm repeating, because from sources in the BSP and Dalit activists, that she was more and more inclined, that feistiness, that powerful sort of figure of Behenji was slowly fading, and she was trying to somehow manage things. Now that really was terrible for a party like the BSP, which grew out of a movement. On the ground, the BSP failed to take up actively Dalit causes. And so there was started getting, erosion of support. So to put it very, bluntly, Mayawati lost whatever upper caste support she had earlier on. She lost the non-Dalit vote, the non-Jatav vote amongst Dalits quite some time ago. And then within Jatavs, there was a younger section who felt increasingly disillusioned by her, sort of conciliatory
Yeah,
stance towards.
I mean, giving up. But what kind of access did you have when you were writing this book? I mean,
Well, I, of course, kept it very secret from her. I mean,
but you used to
I was
meet her
one of the
often. You used to
first-
interact with her often.
Yeah. I kept it secret, and I was advised by her closest advisors that for God's sake, don't let her know you're writing a book, otherwise you'll end up writing a publicity brochure. I knew her through Kanchiram. I was one of the first journalists to be friendly with Kanchiram. And at INS building, he used to come with his very close friend Shinoy of Malayalam Manorama, and I used to go and chat. And he was unlike Mayawati, he was very talkative and he loved to discuss everything. So we struck up a very good relationship. And I used to go and visit him, and Mayawati was living with him at that time, and she used to come and peek and look at me. But when I started writing the book, I really spoke to a lot of her advisors, and everybody said, for God's sake. So I did interview her on various sorts of things, but I told
didn't tell her you were
everybody,
writing
and I
the
told her also, that I was writing a longish article, but not a book.
I see.
Because, with these, to write a political biography of such mercurial people, they will really sit on your head.
And Mercury understatement.
When the book came out, it was a very sympathetic book, and it gave her a huge boost because, as you correctly said, Mayawati had no profile at all. And my book was the first one which gave her that huge profile. So she was quite grateful, but I got trouble immediately when the Hindi edition came out, because I think the trickiest sentence I've written in my 52-year-old journalist life is the sentence in which in my book, I wrote about Mayawati's relationship with Kanchiram. So, it was, of course, a political relationship, but it was also a relationship which went beyond that. So, I wrote it in a very, very sort of guarded manner in English. But the Hindi translation, unfortunately, which I presented to Mayawati, and Mayawati ordered this book to be sold by the millions, like in all libraries. Unfortunately, one of her advisors had read the book and found this sentence and used it because of my book, everybody there around her was thinking that I was the rising star in Mayawati's court. So they quickly rushed in. So this is just a personal anecdote.
I see.
And the publisher was called. Nobody told me anything because she didn't want to approach me. But my publisher was told to return all the photographs which were taken. She gave us a lavish tea and everything in her house. So that was the end, absolutely. But anyway, I mean, I still followed her avidly, and I was hugely supportive of her. But I have found that Mayawati's steep decline now. And now let me just talk, if you don't mind, very quickly about her nephew. Who, I mean, the reason why we are talking about Mayawati, because of this amazing thing about her nephew and political successor being sacked twice in less than a year. I mean, that is amazing. I mean, only Mayawati could do this.
Once in the middle of the campaign.
The rise and fall of of Akash Anand is itself a saga, because suddenly there is this young 22-year-old London-trained business management graduate, son of her favorite younger brother, Anand Kumar, coming and being introduced by Mayawati and swiftly becoming her favorite. And then, to the shock of everybody, Anand being named as her political successor, which completely went against the grain of Mayawati's earlier statements that I want my family just to do functional jobs. I don't want to talk about a political successor. So that was amazing. But in the middle of the 2024 election campaign, just barely 6 months after he was named his successor, now Akash Anand, obviously being a young man and quite a fiery orator, decided that he had to really get back the zest in the BSP and started giving this very, very emotional speeches. And these speeches were mainly directed against the BJP, which was in power, of course, the Yogi government in UP and in Lucknow, and the Modi government thing. And he went as far as comparing them to the Taliban as a party of terrorists, government of terrorists, and bulldozer government. So suddenly Mayawati sacked him. And then after that, he was very quickly, very, very quickly restored after the elections were over. So we thought that maybe, that was a temporary thing, but obviously it's deepened speculation that the BJP was
instrumental in getting. Ajoy, may I just come back to you? Sorry, Sumeet, I've just been told is actually joining us from Toronto, so it's 1:30 there. So, Sumeet, closing thoughts before we say good night. You've been up long enough. I'm so sorry. I thought you were joining us from university. But if you could just do a wrap up on this issue, because I have one question on the history angle before we say goodbye. What do you think is the reason for her diminishing relevance in UP and national politics? Is it purely the BJP's rise, or is it that she has stepped back? She said, okay, my fighting days are over. Like many journalists who I respect in India, who I think have not turned because they are for sale or we fought when we were young, now you want to retire, so we have no mood to fight. Is it that?
Yeah, my reading of BSP is that BSP has relied pretty much not through media to reach out to people, but what would be far more like people to people contact, and it's a cadre-based party. And I think that strategic part probably was not kept up with. And what Ajoy said also, that in terms of strategy after the success of elections between 2007 and 12, I think this disconnect with the cadre and to follow up their strategy, because I think BSP's major strength was this grassroots network. It was not through media or any other kind of means that they reached out to their own voters or to the vote base, or even the various micro social alliances they made. And I think in that sense, probably Mayawati, as Ajay also said, that, Kanshiram's absence and following different kind of strategies to adopt to the newer kinds of, needs of the constituents, whether this is the younger voters or whether some voters are drifting away. I think that has definitely caused a major kind of decline. And the last actually major news she made was only during the scheduled caste and scheduled tribe subclassification, where she opposed the Supreme Court judgment, which also led to the party split in Karnataka, where one of the like a major section of political leaders just walked out of the political party. That also showed that even in strategy she was not able to make a decision on this particular judgment, which would affect her party so immediately. So I think strategically massive kind of errors after errors, and that's what I also said earlier. This is one party which is consistently on decline, where we find very little scope for revival. Akash may be a possible, but I think even there it's really difficult, because I think it will have to really require a major revamping of the BSP. I don't know if Mayawati is afraid only about going to the jail or not. These are speculations. But strategically, clearly, she is failing as far as electoral politics is concerned.
Okay, but before we say goodbye to Sumeet, just one quick question. If you could tell me as briefly as possible. I mean, Manisha said it, you said it, even Anand said it, that there was a mix of Hindus in Aurangzeb's court and in his decision-making, administration and generals, etc. Historically, how do you decide whether that is a reflection of inclusivity? Because 100 years from now, people can say BJP was not a Hindu nationalist party under Modi Shah, because they had Shahnawaz Hussain, they had Mukhtar Abbas Naqvi, they had Shazia Elmi and various other, Muslim faces who were there. We know what the status of those Muslim faces is, but is that enough to demonstrate inclusivity? Because if that is, then BJP has it too, right? But it is still a Hindu nationalist movement.
Yeah. No, that's a good question. I think the point here is what positions they obtain in that kingdom. And in both sides, whether it's Marathas or Aurangzeb, you have these people at very important positions. These are not merely tokens who are used as a diversity kind of mascots.
Which he didn't have to do.
Yeah, exactly. Which
Aurangzeb
there
was
was
under
no
no
necessity,
compulsion.
there was no political correctness pressure on them to do that. There is no democracy for that matter. And they were kings, and they didn't have to do that, but they were actually having them because that was the best way to have control over the masses.
Right.
Because if you have to rule a diverse country, you also need people from diverse sections so that you can rule the country or whatever region back then. So I wouldn't necessarily go with that kind of indication.
Point noted. So before we say goodbye, a recommendation that could enrich the lives of our listeners, Sumeet, so you can go to sleep at this ridiculous hour.
Yeah, it's more an academic recommendation, but I think
we expect nothing less from a professor.
No, I wish I had a non-academic recommendation, but this is on Ahmedabad city, and it's a book called In the Shadow of the Mill. It's about the spatial transformation of working class neighborhoods by Rukmini Barua, who is a historian of labor. And it's an interesting book because it also talks, so much of the Ahmedabad writing is revolving around the riots. And this is a take which also takes riots into account, but it tracks a longer kind of trajectory about the spatial transformation of the working class from almost for 80 to 90 years. So that would be my recommendation.
So thank you for that. Thank you for your time and staying up so late. To our audience, you can listen to a detailed discussion with Dr. Mhaskar with Sudipta Mandal on his podcast, What's Your Ism? The link is in the show notes below. Have a good night, Sumeet. Thank you so much for your time.
Yes, thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye. Sorry, Ajoy, you were saying. So, that combativeness of her nephew is something that did not go down well with her, which to me suggests it's not a strategic errors that have led to her decline. It is very much a design that she doesn't want to take on the BJP, because that itself is a USP.
Absolutely. So now, after being restored, he's been now knocked out again in less than a year. This time expelled from the party. After his father-in-law was expelled from the party, This gets, his father-in-law is an interesting character called Ashok Siddharth, whose father used to work with Kanchiram. I remember
I
meeting
see.
him big with
Okay.
Kanchiram, his father. And Ashok Siddharth is a veteran, in the BSP, very close to Mayawati at one point. He was sent to the Rajya Sabha and everything. So one of the kind of, sort of pillars of the BSP. BSP doesn't have leaders who are independent or anything, but he was considered a very, very important prop. Now, apparently, the immediate provocation for his expulsion and now Mayawati's nephew's, expulsion and Mayawati saying she will not have any more political successors is because between Akash Anand and his father-in-law, they fell out with another BSP leader called Ramji Gautam, who is the protege of Satish Mishra. Which brings us to the question of Satish Mishra. I've recently asked about who are the leaders of the BSP. And of course, the easy answer would have been Mayawati and nobody else. But I do believe that Mayawati obviously is the face of the BSP, and whatever she says goes. But her closest advisor is Satish Mishra. Continues to be through her decline. And I think it's largely because Satish Mishra handles all her cases as a lawyer. And over the years, many people have tried to come up against him, but they have all suffered. And I think he holds enormous influence. That is my knowledge and understanding of the situation inside BSP. And overall, I think that is one of the things which many Dalit activists say is the reason why Mayawati is what she is today compared to what she used to be. I remember her in almost pigtails, when she used to really go out, with Akbar Ahmed, through the fields. This is a very sad development. But I would like to complete, my analysis of the situation by looking at Dalit politics, particularly in UP, but even at a national level. Because UP actually created, being so large, it does set a, template for other states as well. And it certainly influences other states. And I think that although you have the rise of leaders like Chandrasekhar Azad, and mind you, Akash Anand being brought in by Mayawati was clearly with an eye to the rise of Chandrasekhar Azad. Because Mayawati naming him as political successor must have been to tell younger Dalits, listen, it's not just me.
There's
this young guy.
Although Chandrasekhar and Mayawati would have been such a formidable combination. A phenomenal combination.
Never, ever. And this is the problem with Akash Anand. He took his job too seriously. It is Mayawati's personality. You see, she does not.
She will not share the spotlight.
She will not share.
Like Modi.
This is something which, a behind the scene person, hatchet man like Satish Mishra, yes. But not somebody who would share the politics.
Not a superstar who can.
Yeah, there's no way. So, Dalit politics, where does this leave Dalit politics? Because although Chandrasekhar Azad does get a boost, it is true that more and more younger Dalits. Mind you, Mayawati has a solid, rock-solid base of the older generation of Jatavs. They have dreamt that dream. And they will still believe that they are what they call, blind faith in her. So if you go to a village and you talk to the older generation, they will always say that, hum to Behenji ke saath. I mean, there is no question about that. So that base, now she's come down to 9% of the UP vote, which means that she's lost about 6% of the Dalit vote.
Hmm.
6% of the Jatav vote. Because Jatav vote is around 15-16%, I think, about 14 to 15%.
And considering
she
it
has
was such a
lost-
sticky vote for her, that's a huge loss.
Yeah, that's a huge loss. She can at best split the Dalit vote by, in UP by maybe 5%.
But she can't dominate like she used to.
She can't dominate.
But thank you so
Yeah,
much, Ajoy,
exactly.
for your time. Before we say goodbye, can you give us a recommendation that would enrich the lives of our listeners other than your books, which we have already plugged?
Well, I can't think of a book because I'm trying to wrap my head around the Trump world order.
Right.
And, which seems a little more fascinating than the minimalist politics in India. So I discovered this new Facebook blog called Fear and Loathing.
Fear and Loathing.
On
Okay.
the net. And it's a savage satire of what is happening in the US and the world. And I recommend it highly, really,
Thank you so much, Ajoy, for giving us so much of your time. Have a fantastic day. And we hope to host
Thank
you in our
you.
studio one of these days.
Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right. Before we go to the mails, because we had two experts on this, on the whole Mayawati issue, Raman, Manisha, Anand, haven't heard your take. I mean, I have a very simplistic take. She just doesn't have the stomach for battle anymore.
No, I think since 2014, if you see her decline, it is because she has become politically inert. There may be some political reasons that Ajoy has spoken about and Sumit also spoke about, but I think I'm a ground reporter, so we go to the ground, we meet many people. So what I very clearly see that, and this is not speculation as Sumit said, it is actually true. If you see her personal growth, her family's growth, which had no business, business background, and now they are dealing in with crores of rupees worth business.
But that's true for so many politicians.
No.
She's judged more harshly?
No. What I'm trying to... No. I'm not saying that...
By her base.
What I'm saying, that is... There are so many cases now built up against that.
Achha, from the agencies.
Because by
I
the corruption
see.
cases, ED... See, the Ministry of Finance, you have a intelligence unit over there which keeps a dossier on each politician. By not just by the BJP. The Congress also used to keep it. There is a dossier on Ramdev. There is a dossier on everybody. So the government uses it for political reasons. So now here the speculation is that since 2014, there is a decline, and it is an established fact that she is politically inert. So the speculation is that she has already been shown, the jail number in Tihar jail, that in case if she doesn't fall in line with the BJP politics, then she will be in the jail. So I think this is why she has become politically inert. Which is a non-political reason, but that's what I feel.
What do you think, Manisha?
And I get it from not one source, two sources, many sources.
Several sources.
I think I'd really... talking about media access, like when that MNS thing was brought up, I think why Raj Thackeray is also in the news or gets that kind of space is because he puts himself out there. He gives interviews. Mayawati is completely closed. I haven't read a good long form report actually on what's happening within the BSP right now in a very long time. For a leader to say, I'll have no successor till I die, is quite a spectacular thing to say. So the fact that she's saying this, I think I'd really like to know what's happening within. But it's quite sad considering that Ajoy really took us through the ages on what she has meant, what Kashi Ram's legacy was, what she
very
is.
Powerful.
And her life should not have just meant what she became. It means the political imagination for the most marginalized people in India, what they could do, how they could reclaim political power. And for that to just dissipate, I think history will judge her harshly, because you should have thought of what happens to the BSP after me. I think that is a central question for the BSP. What happens to BSP after me? This is true for a lot of other regional parties. Stalin, Mamta, We know with Thakre's, the
What
party
happened to
split.
Jayalalitha? What happened to AIDMK?
Yeah, so you can't be just what you were. There's an institution that you have to like nurture and create, and it has to last beyond you.
And I remember, I was a cub reporter and used to cover Kanchiram. And when Kanchiram came to Delhi, it was a very new to us. I mean, we said, what will he do? And I had gone to East Delhi listening to his, speech, public speech. And we reported that dutifully. But I saw first time when they contested in Delhi, it was 10% of the votes that they had taken.
And today,
I still remember because it was quite astonishing.
1%, or I don't know, less than 1%.
It's less than 1%.
On Akash Anand, though, I was noticing during this whole Ram Temple inauguration was happening, all these BJP-friendly medias were basically attacking any opposition leader that wasn't going, right? Sonia was attacked, Rahul was attacked. Akash Anand very clearly came on television and said, I will not go. For my people, that is not my temple. Constitution, parliament is my temple. And no one could attack him. And I think that's the power of, a Dalit leader. And I found him he may be young and he may be a little not practiced, but for him to have said that and no one could attack him. None of the usual Godi Jivis could have said anything about, to him, because he comes on the back of real social discrimination. And that's a very powerful statement to make. Rahul cannot pass.
Rahul
he can't
cannot
say it
do
and pass
He's
it.
Too much.
But Akash Anand can. And I think it was his Lok Sabha, before he got suspended, his speeches were very powerful. He was really saying that why do you need to look at temples? You need to educate yourself. Why aren't Dalits talking about degrees? Why aren't you talking about college education? So I think he could have mobilized the youth at least.
He still can. I mean, like I said, it may be the end of the road for Mayawati, but not necessarily
But does he
BSP.
have the thing in him to go beyond BSP?
As the oldest cliche says, time will tell. Anand, last words are yours on this issue.
But it's a good cliche. Only time tells. I think
It's an accurate cliche.
no, means it is a defamed cliche.
But true nevertheless.
It is the only cliche that works. So other cliches also work. So I think in a phrase, her decline can be put as a lack of political agility. So she has not been politically agile to a lot of things. But like say the stick of say ED or CBI, if she was really electorally powerful and with a clear line of succession, even if she is put in jail, that should not have bothered her.
Yeah.
A lot of leaders have shown that, Lalu or Jayalalitha or a lot of so. But she was not electorally powerful at a given point of time, and with a lot of insecurities regarding her political succession, she still has. A nephew is not same as son. Okay, so let it be the Indian psyche, but nephew is not same as son. So say in Tamil Nadu you have 1.5 chief minister from a same family. The deputy chief minister is from also the same family, but he is the son. So, and nephews bring certain kind of insecurities. Also, there is a fear that they will take over the party, as it happened with N.T. Ramarao in Andhra, and a lot of things which were not immediate. So that is one thing. I didn't agree with Ajoy Bose that UP sets the template for Dalit politics in other states. That's not correct.
Bihar sets it.
No. In fact, the neighboring state Bihar has a very Bihar's political diversity cannot be matched, because you see the assembly tally.
Correct.
You have left in the Dalit. A lot of Dalit vote goes to the left, CPI, CPIM. Where you have left parties
in UP.
Where you have Oasis present in UP, where you have Lohiites, you have Congress there, you have there. So Bihar's political maturity and diversity is at different levels. So no, not maybe maybe not maturity. That means I think Bihar is a different case.
Right.
And even UP people, we are Mahadalits of backwardness. So if you if a UPite and Bihari is sitting, he will consider himself Dalit and Bihari Mahadalit, and he will distinguish himself from. So in the popular culture or in media, Bihar UP is in the same breath, but not for us.
Right.
So
Noted.
So
Noted.
uh,
Don't mix the two.
So who sets the template
so
for the
no,
politics?
means I think
There's
regional
no template.
regional
No template.
specificities are there.
Yes.
There are regional specific things. So South Indian Dalit politics would be different.
Very different.
So I don't think that it sets the template.
Even for
I-
Brahmins, you can't set a template.
So
I called one Chobeji accidentally Dubeji. Kehta, you reduced. I am a
Veda.
Char Vedas.
Hmm.
Dubes are two
So you were
Vedas.
ticked
So he
off.
called.
So you have, say, like in Bihar, you have Clement, or like Ramvilas Paswan's party is a Clement on Dalit vote. Left parties are Clement, as well as RJD and JDU and BJP. Also, Akash Anand's like not going to temple, but he misses one point, that there is a section among Dalits for whom Ram temple is important.
Very important. Yeah.
So he's not eyeing that vote. He has also cornered himself to a box.
Right.
So,
And which also the DMK had done, which it like kind of often tries to get out of that straitjacket.
There is a section, but I feel that section will also think of other things. You know, so you can kind of speak to them that, okay, is this enough for you? Do you want more?
But Anand, Jagjeevan Ram was the huge Dalit leader in
Yes,
Bihar.
from
But
Congress.
why his daughter could not
Yes,
claim
he-
it?
Congress Meera Kumar.
Dude, why do you think so?
I don't
We've
know.
all seen her as speaker. What party will she handle? I mean, they're different. She's not a Mayawati, man. She was the.
But Jagjeevan Ram
She
was
was-
huge.
She was an Indian Foreign Service officer,
Ah.
Meera Kumar,
Ah.
and before joining politics, she resigned.
She was too gentle for politics.
I just
of-
remember Bed Jaiye.
Yeah, she's too gentle.
Bed
Yeah.
Jaiye.
I mean,
And
that-
smiling.
It's like saying, you know, why can't a Jaishankar become a they can't. Jaishankar is a bureaucrat. He can be given a responsibility and do it, but
She
he can't
inherited.
go and handle a party. But we've had a very long hafta today, but we had such interesting guests. We thought we'd keep it, so we'll only read 2 emails.
Okay.
The rest we will put for next week. So here's the QR code again. Please scan. Pay to keep news free. Support our projects. Because each day that I watch legacy media, I get more and more depressed at the amount of sarkari ads. It's just going up and up and up. There's zero self-conscious. It's brazen now.
Yes.
So yeah. So you
should
can
we
mail us
just
at podcast@newslaundry.com. We will read 2 or 3, the 69, 40, 50 word ones. Let's read. The rest we'll put for next week.
No, since I come on alternate haftas, read which figure me, so I can respond.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah, so we'll go with this.
Because
I
I
like
got
that.
some which was based on some misinterpretation.
So
May I-
Vikas
can
says
clear.
some of the guests on the podcast have the habit of talking over other guests. Example, Professor Tanveer was more into responding and cutting off Anand rather than the first listening and understanding the point. We moved to NL from Legacy News because we want to hear a conversation, not people talking over each other. Okay, this mentions you, but it is not a question.
no.
So, fine, noted.
Wait, I'll see. Okay, Anonymous says, I've been a member of nearly 8 years and I've lived in both red and blue states in the US. Since the 2024 election cycle, I've followed your US politics coverage. However, your takes on Trump, Doge, etc. feel naive. Essentially a copy-paste from left-wing US media. Hafta without Anand and Manisha has become an echo chamber of ideas. Even your guests reinforce this bubble. I urge you to invite more diverse viewpoints and enrich discussions and reflect a broader reality.
Noted. Thank you so much.
There's a detailed feedback which we'll read. It's below.
There's a 34-word email from AP, a song that I found very funny. Maybe you can use as an outro.
What is the
We
song?
will do that. Wait for the outro. It is very funny.
But tell now, I'm curious.
It's basically after that guy's ना क्या यहूदी ही यजुवंशी है? Then क्या हिटलर ही हरियाणवी था?
अच्छा.
You know, क्या दुबे ही दुबई में बसते हैं? So someone's made a song along those
So
lines.
Noam Khan says, pardon the long letter, but I expect better from Newslaundry. I hope you read it fully. In recent Hafta episode, Anand mentioned Muslims burning the Statesman copy in Kolkata as protest. Just mentioning this without context is lazy way to criticize the protesters. You should also examine the writer Johan Hari, a so-called journalist known for plagiarism fabrications. I won't get into that. I'm sure you're aware.
There's a 293-word email, so we will just tell the gist of it. Norman says that he claimed that at 53 the Prophet had intercourse with a 9-year-old and ordered entire Jewish and the
Murdered.
framing is deeply problematic. And he says, you know, based on the whatever is the legend that, so I mean, he's spoken about what was written, and to whitewash the crimes of fascist and imperialist regimes is what is done by many of these writers, is what Norman is saying.
So actually, means for contextualizing, you need a lot of time, and I just mentioned it, and I think in short I contextualized it like in cultural relativism, that it was published in Independent and a Statesman reprinted it. So there is a difference. In Independent in Britain it was consumed and without. So I think today, if even the Independent, which has now become a digital site, not a print paper, there would be protests now in 2025. 2025 Britain is not the same as 2009. But if you listen to that, in the beginning I said the Statesman made an error of judgment, and the editor was actually arrested, Ravindra Kumar, an editor of a major English newspaper in Kolkata was arrested. And and going who the writer was, I said that the article was critical of prophet, what you mentioned, and being critical of a religious figure means blasphemy.
In our country, for sure. Now even political figures, or even historical figures now, though. It's got to the stage where it's
it is not a 4-hour program where you can contextualize the writer and everything.
So we'll read one last mail of Tanya's, because that's about Anand, and then we can wrap up for the week.
Okay, so Tanya says, on Hafta, where Anand and Manisha made a point about shaping minds of individuals in university spaces, I agree with Anand saying that students are disassociated with the community experience of university. I study at Delhi University. I see around myself students who do not have caste class privileges that I do, who are not exposed to alternative political, social, cultural, economic perspective. Here, university plays a huge role. I was present at Nivedita Menon's session that Manisha was talking about, and could feel that so many more girls would have access to it if it would have taken place inside the campus. If our professors want us to think that caste does not exist in urban spaces, it is the reading circles, protest demonstrations, art and graffiti that tells us that it exists. But with universities attacking even the smallest of progressive actions, they're shaping minds of at least some students, and they have to be held accountable for that.
I think. So I think she agreed with me. So I should be happy, but actually she misinterpreted me in a way. So by community life, I meant that the possibilities of interaction in an university with teachers and other students is very less, because students have opted out of it because they have other career preoccupations, preparing for other things, and the interactive pattern is very different what people think it is, because people are preoccupied not for any political or other regions. That is a different, that all that is happening. And like say what you say, Nivedita Menon was my teacher in Delhi University before she moved to JNU. So like in LSR only, there were cancel like this talk you are saying and other. If you go to years back, who is now a spokesman of BJP, Guru Pashwan. He's a he is a professor in Patna University.
Yes.
So his talk was cancelled. His the SC/ST cell.
He did a piece on it also.
SC/ST cell of the college had invited him on Ambedkar Jayanti. He was to speak on Ambedkar beyond constitution, like his role as an economist and the other. So it was cancelled. So that is happening. What you say is also happening. That is the dominant thing happening because the party is in power.
Right.
But other voices are also other, like who got Guru Pashwan's talk cancelled. There is an influential group also working there.
Sure. So, but I think
this is very wrong, I think.
And I think this general of cancelling talks
it's pathetic.
is something that has become a trend, not just in the world over, that this person should not speak at a college. And every group is influential now. Na? You don't have to have size. You just have to have the loudest and most hysterical voices. And that is, I think, and on that, I think that's true for several political sides. It is just, no one wants to discuss anything. Just don't hurt my feelings. I will get traumatized. I will get triggered. I will get this. I will get that. So baat hi mat karo. So also,
this is not whataboutery, but should not have recency bias, that what happened in recent you go. You should have a historical canvas to base your views on.
इस पर मैं disagree करता हूँ. You should have recency bias. Otherwise, you'll keep going back to Aurangzeb. I think the last, basically, whatever is the most immediate threat is the most, for me, the highest priority. Was Congress horrible? Yes. But will I gherav Manmohan Singh's house today? No, I won't. I will gherav someone else's. So.
But understanding of an issue and a topic needs a historical bias, just for sake of it.
I get it.
Historical canvas, not bias.
You have to consume it, read about it. But what action points for me are the immediate ones. That's as far as
that is news. That is, I think, that is reacting to news.
Okay, so let's get the recommendations of the week. Manisha, what do you have for our listeners?
So I really liked watching A Complete Unknown. Please catch it in the nearest cinema near you.
What is that?
It's a biography of Bob Dylan.
Oh yeah, you tell me about it. Okay,
very nice. It's in the theaters. It's really fun. If you're a fan, you must watch it. A very disturbing piece in the New Yorker. It's an essay on the chat room behind the Pellicott rape trial.
Anand?
I have many recommendations.
Okay, then let's narrow down to time. Two for today.
Okay. First is that people will come back with comments. So let me say that Girish Shahane's essay in the Scroll. So that is the reference point for everything he will answer. So
okay.
So yes. So what was cited was from his other heavy books I can cite, but for the my comments were limited to that only today. Second is a book, and though I have reviewed it, and there is also an interview coming. Ankita Madhwani, so she has written this book, and it's an ignored but important book for media, also for print culture, and from different sociological points of view. Everyday reading, the Hindi middle boy and the North Indian middle class. So after independence, the Hindi space of, say, Delhi press magazines like Sarita, which actually financed Caravan, just like Saraswati finances Caravan now, and also the Dharmyug, which came from the Times of India group. So she has tried to take social notes of the Hindi reading mind, and what were the topics. Individual was reinserted, not the nation's ideals and this the political ideals, how individual became important, her tastes, consumer goods, like particularly with focus on women. So I have also reviewed this way. I have some critical points, but generally the book is very good and well researched. So
I will also recommend two. One is I'm going to plug in our story, Newslaundry story. In fact, media really played up CAG report on Aam Aadmi Party that their mohallas, they had taken medicines from 4 blacklisted companies. It was really played up in a big way. But we have done a story, and we have found that even Pradhan Mantri, sponsored medical yojnas have also taken
from the same
not only from these 4 companies, also from their subsidiaries.
So, but that was not highlighted in
which
any
wasn't
of the
highlighted,
discussions.
So we did a paywall story. Yesterday it was published. And secondly, I'll recommend the movie Anora, which has won 5 Oscar
awards.
It's
on Amazon, right?
It's on Amazon. And this is people may, I don't know, but I like the fact that it captured the humiliation of a person who is considered perhaps the lowest denominator of the society. I mean, she is a prostitute. So it's beautifully captured. So it comes out very well, and it's a comedy tragedy. It's a beautiful story. I liked it.
So I have 2 recommendations. One is Mrinal Pandey wrote a piece on Hindi and the whole Hindi-English debate. It was an interesting read. I mean, I have a kind of position on this whole thing, but it was like in defense of Hindi. because she is a progressive figure. She's not identified as Godi media or as RSS backer, but I just thought it was a nuanced piece, and this is a discussion on which there's not much nuance happening. And the second is a series of podcasts which I think the intelligence has done. It's a podcast by The Economist. It's done Pompast, which is about Trump, Buck Off, which is US pauses Ukraine to Ukraine, and Europe after Trump. Basically, their last 5 podcasts on Trump, I think, are really interesting because it really makes you realize how unhinged Trump is if even The Economist can't defend him. Because The Economist was one of those that was seen back in the day when I was young as the pro-free market. Not that Trump is free market, but yeah, I just think their commentators are really smart and well-read. So I just find it very valuable. On that note, I'd like to thank our sound recordist, Anil Kumar, our producer, Priyali Dhingra, and our other producer, Ashish, who doesn't seem to be around right now, but was hovering around somewhere. And I'd like to thank all of you who have contributed and paid to keep news free. Here is the QR code again. This is a regular subscription QR code. If you haven't subscribed, do subscribe, because you can save journalism, not billionaires, not politicians, not political parties. On that note, have a great day. And as a subscriber suggested, this Jugaad song will be a Hafta song for the day. Bye-bye.